早晨啊，各位來賓好，各位傳媒朋友大家都好，歡迎大家咧就出席中國移動香港5G 商用1週年傳媒發布會。我係今日嘅司儀魏韻芝 Joyce。咁時間就過得好快啦，話咁快呢，香港5G 商用咧已經有1年啦。我仲記得咧上一年呢，我啲朋友仲喺度問我會唔會轉5G 啊？不過我就冇轉到啦，因為我哋唔知道呢，佢除咗快過4.5G 之外呢，仲有啲乜嘢唔同。過去一年啦，中國移動香港啦用咗唔同嘅方式，俾我哋大家知道呢5G 同我哋咧其實係息息相關嘅。大家咧仲記得2020咧港姐選舉咧360度泳裝環節嘛？嗰陣時咧都有個好新嘅體驗㗎。仲有咧5G 改寫我們嘅故事咧，其中有一 part VR360旅遊，真係我都好期待嘅。今日咧係5G 商用嘅1週年啦，我哋好高興咧就可以請到中國移動香港董事兼行政總裁李凡峰先生，同在座各位咧嚟一個網上與發佈會咧直播嘅傳媒朋友咧，分享中國移動香港5G 最新研發。另外咧，我哋亦都好榮幸咧請到國際知名嘅網絡測速機構 Speedtest 嘅代表 Auckland 美國同亞太區副總裁 Mr. Andrew Matelli 透過網上咧喺美國同我哋分享咧香港最新5G 網速測速。傳媒朋友咧之後咧都會問入環節啦，網上直播咧亦都會同傳媒咧可以喺 chat box 度咧同我哋分享。事不宜遲咧，我哋而家就有請中國移動香港董事兼行政總裁李凡峰先生致歡迎辭，有請李凡峰先生。
咁各位現場同埋係參加我哋網上直播嘅傳媒朋友，大家好啦。咁咧，首先咧係感謝大家咧參加今日我哋中國移動香港5G 商用1週年嘅傳媒發布會。咁今日咧亦都係香港5G 商用嘅1週年嘅大日子啦。咁我哋仲記得咧係舊年咧因為疫情嘅關係啦，我哋中國移動嘅5G 啟動會咧，就係透過全港首個8K 360度5G 直播嚟進行嘅。轉眼間又1年啦，咁今日真係好高興同大家又喺度再見面。喺過去1年嚟講係一個非常難忘嘅1年啦。除咗係香港5G 發展嘅元年之外呢，亦都係疫情嘅肆虐嘅1年啦。大家喺工作上或者係生活上嘅習慣都會因為咁而改變。面對突如其來嘅一個轉變啦，香港人仍然依然係迅速咁嘅應變，亦都體現咗我哋香港人講求高效、快速嘅精神。快從來就係我哋香港嘅特色，香港人經常都會咁樣講話，唔使急，但係最緊要快。咁亦都係導致咗我哋香港人對於速度嘅追求同埋執着。工作效率高自然係重要啦。我哋日常嘅娛樂譬如好似下載電影啊，或者係打機等等呢，都同樣係要追求到分秒必爭嘅。咁有好多人都會問，咁其實分秒之間係咪真係咁重要啊？但如果我同你講，如果我哋科技能夠爭取到1分1秒嘅節省，從而係能夠救到一條人命，呢1分1秒就係好重要。咁好似一間可能會介紹嘅5G，我哋嘅無人機啦，搜索啦，遠程醫療咧，亦都係能夠加強到我哋搜索嘅速度，增強咗我哋存活率嘅嘢，都係爭分奪秒嘅事。提到速度，咁其實5G 大家知道咧，亦係5G 3大特性之一啦。其他嘅2個特性就係低時延啦，同埋係多連接。喺過去1年呢，我哋中國移動咧亦都投入咗好多資源呢，係構建我哋一個5G 嘅網絡，亦都尋求咧5G 網絡嘅突破。咁今日咧，我好高興同大家去分享一個令人振奮嘅消息，就係我哋嘅努力咧，終於獲得咗肯定。近日咧，我哋國際權威機構 Speedtest 咧最近嘅5G 速度測試結果之中咧，我哋中國移動香港嘅5G 網絡嘅表現係絕對領先，而且係超越我哋同齊嘅。我哋今日都好榮幸咧，能夠邀請到 OCA 美國同埋亞太區副總裁 Mr. Andrew Matelli 同我哋一齊咁分享咗呢個嘅成績。咁對於我哋一直以來咧，對於5G 嘅投入啦，同埋我嘅努力咧，能夠獲得到一個肯定咧，我哋公司上下咧都非常鼓舞。我哋亦都會係繼續努力，為我哋嘅客戶帶來更加多嶄新嘅5G 服務啦，同5G 嘅技術，亦都推動我哋香港智慧城市嘅發展。再次多謝。
好多謝晒 Sean 啊！ 咁中國移動香港咧，過去一年咧都先後進行咗多個網絡基建啦，同5G 應用研發，努力不懈咧與香港攜手邁向5G 網絡嘅新時代。講到5G 網絡啦，個上下載速度咧係最為重要嘅。我哋今日咧就專程請咗最為人熟悉嘅國際知名網速評測網站 Speedtest by Ookla 嘅代表，喺美國咧透過視像會議咧同我哋今日參加呢一個活動，分享香港多個5G 流動網絡網速表現。Speedtest by Ookla 咧，自2006年咧成立咗，以後咧係一個獨立機構身份咯，測試咗不同國家同地區嘅網絡營運商機同埋網絡質素，同埋分享咧報告啦，過程咧獨立咧同埋公開嘅。咁啦，依家咧我哋有請 Ookla 美國及亞太區副總裁 Mr. Andrew Maselli 為我哋分享最新嘅報告。大家可以留意右手邊嘅熒光幕啦，我哋就會有個直播畫面咧，同 Speedtest by Ookla 嘅簡報資料。有請 Mr. Andrew Maselli。May we now invite Mr. Andrew Maselli, Vice President America and APAC of Ookla, to share the latest performance of 5G in Hong Kong with us. Hi, Mr. Andrew Maselli.
Hi, thank you, and greetings to all, especially Sean. It's a great honor to be here today and to be able to present and discuss Ookla's latest speed test results for 5G in Hong Kong. I know that deploying and optimizing a 5G network is a pretty daunting and challenging task, and I think the events of the last year didn't make that any easier. Based on the data that I'll present, the great team at CMHK who have worked so hard on this deployment and the subsequent optimization under some great leadership have a lot to be proud of, as you'll see shortly. Let's go to the next slide. All right. Maybe? There we go. So I wanted to take a few moments to talk about Ookla so that you can understand the integrity and the seriousness that we take our data. We are the global leader in crowdsourced broadband network intelligence testing. I'm sure anyone that's had an internet connection in the past few years is at least a little bit familiar with our flagship platform, Speedtest. Whether you go on the web to speedtest.net or applications for Apple or Samsung or even some of our embedded products, Speedtest is a pretty ubiquitous application for testing the speed and performance of mobile and fixed networks. It's from that Speedtest platform that we get the insight into the performance and quality and accessibility of the networks in Hong Kong that we're going to discuss tonight, this morning. Overall, our various platforms at Ookla are relied on by network operators, businesses, and enterprises globally, many government agencies. In fact, we really are the gold standard for unparalleled and immediate information when it comes to crowdsourced information for networks and online services. Let's go to the next slide. The reason consumers and the industry trust Speedtest is really about our methodology. And there's lots of reasons for that, but really not the least of which is the fact that we've purpose-built our engine, our testing engine that is, and our distributed services specifically so that we can test 5G throughputs. In order to fully test a high-speed network, a high-speed 5G network like CMHK has deployed, you really have to fill the pipe, so to say. You have to make sure that you really put enough demand on the network in order to unlock the full benefits of it. So that's where speed test methodology is so impressive, because we can perform a full test and make sure we're looking at the full capability of a network. There are other tests out there that are smaller in nature or don't do this, and thus the results may not be accurate. And we really take integrity seriously, and we want to make sure we have the most accurate results there are. When it comes to using those results to make claims and give out awards, we also maintain the highest integrity. We want to make sure we have completely unbiased results. We don't want to ever sanction an award or a claim unless it really meets our very high standards. We have a best-in-class data science team who work continuously to ensure that all of our data meets the highest standards. Some of the things that we look at, for instance, is making sure that there are thresholds for volume, that we're not using arbitrary date ranges, for instance. Maybe you might call that cherry picking, so that we can try and compare apples to apples in the markets. Next slide, please. So a few relevant numbers that we can talk about, once again, to make sure you understand the scale of consumer trust for the speed test measurements. We have over 100 million monthly active users. From that, we get about 10 million tests per day. We have over 14,000 servers in 190 countries. And to date, we've had over 34 billion tests. I can also add that we've seen speed tests taken in every single country of the world, which is pretty exciting. Next slide, please. Finally, just a few last notes before we get into the exciting data about Hong Kong. We want to make sure that people understand that speed test is a bit different in that we're able to really test that last mile that the consumer pays for and sees. This is because we have this distributed network, server network. As I mentioned earlier, we have over 14,000 servers distributed. Because of that, we're able to really limit the influence of the performance from downstream providers, so that in essence, we're able to really measure the network operator's performance and look at the full capacity of that network operator versus other downstream providers that might be influencing speeds, applications, and things like this. This really is what enables us to compare an operator in a country to another operator in a country, this real apples to apples comparison. And it allows us to be very confident when we present data like we're about to, that really this is a good comparison. And if we're saying a network is a faster network than another, it's because it really is. So let's go to the next slide. And we can begin to dig into the good numbers that we all came here to see this morning. To begin with, we looked at overall Hong Kong, and we're looking only at 5G. For all the data tonight, our focus is on 3 consecutive months from December through the end of February, this past February. So beginning with download throughput, which is always the king of the metrics for data, we see this blue line, which is CMHK. And over the last few months, from December to February, you see that they're dominating with 210 megabits per second median score, or medium speeds, which is 69 megabits per second higher than the second place operator. This is quite significant. Let's go to the next slide. And we'll talk about upload speed, the second big metric in speed measurements. Upload, of course, is quite important these days when we're doing video conferencing or gaming, or we just have pretty large files that we need to get up to the server. Here we see this blue line again, CMHK, dominating in upload as well at 32 megabits per second. It's a good 10 megabits per second faster than the second place finisher. So again, both in download and upload speed in Hong Kong, for the last 3 months, we're seeing CMHK significantly above its competitors for medium speeds. Let's go to the next slide. And we'll talk about latency. So latency pertains to the transmit time between the end user and our server. It's quite important, especially for applications like gaming, where it can have a direct impact on the customer experience. Gamers, of course, like to have that quick speed because it ties to their reactions in their games. So what you really want is the lowest speed. You want the ability to get to that server and back in the quickest amount of time as possible. So here we see the blue line, which is CMHK again, the lowest. This is a good thing at 10 milliseconds. They're a full 2 milliseconds faster than the next slowest competitor. So here we find that CMHK has won the triple crown, the fastest download speeds over the last 3 months, the fastest upload speeds over the last 3 months, and they have the winning latency at the moment. So all three of the major metrics, CMHK is in the lead. Let's go to the next slide. So it's one thing to look at all these metrics across all of Hong Kong, but it's also quite important for us to see how it's distributed, because it could be deceptive if an operator has great speeds in one district, but in other districts they have very low or even no coverage at all. You really want to see the speeds distributed throughout your city or throughout your country. In this case, green, the darker greens are much faster speeds performance. This is a download heat map, so we're looking at download throughput. And as you can see it very visually. It's very clear, although that we can talk about the numbers as well. But CMHK on this side here has lots of green across all of the major areas, where we look at some of the competitors that are struggling, and even some reds or no coverage at all. So by far, just visually looking, we can see a significant improvement in performance here compared to the competitors. We know for sure by digging in and looking at the geolocated data that CMHK does have 5G leadership in key areas such as Hong Kong Island, Kwantong, Kowloon Tong, Jordan, West Kowloon, Tuan Quan O, Shatin, and Tuen Mun. And hopefully I didn't say those too awful. My Cantonese is not so great. So I'll let you look at this for a second, and then we can move on to the next slide. Okay, next slide. After we've looked at all of Hong Kong and the performance overall, download, upload, and latency, the next thing we want to do is look at segments of the devices that are being used there. Hong Kong is very much an iPhone market. The majority of devices for 5G are iPhone devices. And so it's important to look at how is the performance on these specific devices. Or we can come to the answer of the question, which network is best for the iPhone? If the iPhone is the phone you want to use, on which network will I get the best performance? That's the question we're trying to answer. And so we can look at those same metrics we just looked at. And here we have the iPhone, or again, using the same dates, December through February, this past February. And we see that on iPhone devices, CMHK is in the lead at 213 megabits per second, which is 81 megabits per second faster than the next operator. So a significant lead in download performance if you're using an iPhone in Hong Kong and you're on the CMHK 5G network. Next slide. Again, looking at upload now for iPhone, it's the same result. The blue line wins, which is CMHK. They come in at 30 megabits per second, which is 7 megabits per second faster than the next closest competitor. So once again, if you're using an iPhone, you're going to have the best download and upload speeds based on this data on the CMHK network, at least at the end of February and for the 3 months prior. Next slide. Again, looking at latency, very important for gaming and certain applications, but looking at it on the iPhone. So if you're trying to do gaming on an iPhone device or video conferencing or things that are latency dependent, the blue line wins again. They win the trifecta again at 11 milliseconds, 1 millisecond faster than the next competitor. So for iPhone devices, we can summarize CMHK for the period ending in February has the fastest download throughput, the fastest upload throughput, and the lowest latency. So if that wasn't enough, we also took a look at the performance for Samsung devices. So we can go to the next slide, and did this same analysis. So once again, you've seen these sets of metrics already several times, and we can review again. But here we go. The blue line for download throughput comes in at 199 megabits per second. Again, this is for Samsung devices on 5G in Hong Kong. This is a 46 megabit per second gap over the second competitor. So again, a significant lead. Next slide, please. On upload speed, again, the blue line wins at 37 megabits per second for CMHK. The next competitor is at only 28, so there's a 9 megabits per second gap. So once again, download and upload is being faster on the CMHK network for Samsung devices. And then finally, the last slide. Next slide. For latency on Samsung devices, again, we want the lowest speeds, and here we see this blue line at 10 milliseconds, so a full millisecond faster than the competitor. So once again, on Samsung devices, just as on Apple devices, the CMHK network is the leader for download throughput, upload throughput, and latency, as it is for the entirety of Hong Kong for 5G networks. So let's go to the last slide. And this concludes my presentation today. I want to once again congratulate Sean and the team. You guys have done a great job. I know it's a lot of work in very difficult circumstances, so congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew Maselli, for your sharing. 咁剛才咧 Mr. Maselli 就分享咗報告中咧提到，中國移動香港5G 網絡咧喺本年嘅2月份咧上載及下載速度分別達到32個 megabytes per second 同埋210 megabytes per second。呢個係一個驚人嘅成績，亦都遠遠超越咗其他本地網絡嘅營運商嘅。速度咧係優質5G 網絡首要嘅條件。因為咧，只有上載下載速度領先嘅網絡咧，先至可以加速各行業邁向智慧嘅城市。咁咧，我哋而家咧就想提咧網上嘅傳媒朋友啦，如果你哋有咩問題咧，都可以喺直播嘅界面嘅 chat box 嗰度咧留低，我哋之後咧個問答環節咧就會答你。我哋依家就有請中國移動香港董事兼行政總裁李凡峰先生，再為我哋分享下咧中國移動香港5G 咧過去一年咧嘅重要里程同埋咧發展嘅動向。有請。
Thank you, Andrew 咁頭先呢個報告已經係睇到我哋中國移動嘅5G 網絡㗎。咁我再一次 recap 一次啦，好唔好啊？咁我哋中國移動嘅下載速度係全港最快，我哋中國移動香港嘅上載速度亦都係全港最快，我哋嘅時延亦都係全港嘅最低。咁另外咧，除咗速度時延之外咧，報告亦都指出，我哋中國移動香港嘅優質，即係喺almost all the area 係嘛？你話即係基本上係全港咧所有嘅 region 咧，我哋亦都係佔咗個 leadership 嘅。咁唔知呢個報告可唔可以講一句就話，中國移動香港喺5G 網絡速度嘅時宜係冠絕全港咧？多謝。咁好啦，咁我亦都趁住呢個機會咧，同大家回顧一下咧過去一年我哋中國移動喺5G 業務或者網絡嘅發展。咁咧我哋分開咗，第一就係我講下個人嘅市場啦。咁喺個人市場方面咧，就我哋推出咗好多多元化嘅5G 服務計劃，主要係帶領我哋客戶咧進入咗我哋嘅5G 新時代。咁除我哋主要嘅產品咧或者套餐咧，就係我哋嘅5G 啦。咁其中一個就係我哋一個賣得最好嘅就係198蚊嘅30GB。咁其實你可覺得呢個計劃我哋希望係更多人會選用。另外咧，亦都係希望打破咗一個品質高、質量高，未必係一定係最貴嘅呢個傳統嘅理論。咁當然啦，除咗我哋嘅5G 套餐之外咧，咁我哋有大灣區嘅套餐啦、學生嘅套餐啦，同埋我哋嘅非常全球通嘅套餐，同埋我哋家庭共享套餐咧，都係加入咗我哋嘅5G 嘅元素嘅。咁亦都再講講啦，我哋嘅5G嘅套餐咧，咁我哋係新入嘅客戶咧，我哋仲會加最多係差唔多成2300蚊嘅手機回贈嘅。咁如果計起上嚟咧，而我哋嘅 Net 嘅月費咧，都可能只係120幾蚊嘅啫。 咁另外咧，我都喺藉住呢個機會咧，同大家講下我哋嘅家庭市場啦。咁好多人咧都唔係咁清楚或者唔係咁了解，原來我哋中國移動咧，除咗我哋 mobile 之外咧，亦都係提供我哋加寬嘅服務嘅。咁其實我哋加寬服務嘅里程碑咧，其實我哋喺2017年咧已經係1月開始推出嘅啦。咁主要咧係我哋係轉售我哋第三方合作伙伴嘅服務啦。咁亦都主要提供係100 M、500 M 同埋1 G 嘅呢個速度嘅光纖嘅加寬啦，同埋係家居電話。喺2019年咧，其實我哋咧就已經開始係自己建我哋自己網絡啦。咁咧亦都係主要提供，即係我哋自己建網絡，主要提供係1 G 呢個服務嘅。咁喺舊年，其實我哋咧中國移動咧已經喺自建嘅網絡咧已經取得比較大嘅成績。我哋喺自建網絡，即係加寬嘅網絡咧，即係光纖到戶嘅咧，已經係 cover 超過100萬戶㗎啦。咁另外咧，我哋亦都係咧1 G 嘅呢個加寬服務咧，亦都係融合咗我嘅 UTV 嘅機頂盒啦，一間會介紹下啦。咁你邁向咗一個係數字化嘅一個家庭嘅呢個方案。咁另外咧，我哋咧喺一啲冇 cover 嘅地方咧，亦都利用咗我哋 5G 嘅優勢咧，我哋推出咗個 5G CPE 嘅無線呢個上網嘅服務嘅。咁另外今日啦，而家係點樣咧？我哋嘅加寬呢個服務嘅覆蓋咧已經超過240萬戶，咁而其中咧有110萬戶咧係我哋自建網絡嘅。咁另外咧，而家咧我哋上台嘅客戶咧已經超過70%咧係用緊我哋自建嘅網絡㗎啦。咁另外第三個市場咧，我哋當然係講緊我哋企業市場啦。咁企業市場我哋個 logo 咧，即係我哋 slogan 係5G賦能無限可能。咁其實我哋希望藉住呢個機會講出幾個我哋成功嘅5G 嘅企業嘅解決方案啦。第一咧就係我哋係率先咧推出咗全港首個 5G 網絡無人機嘅解決方案啦。其實包括咗一個機載終端啦，係我哋自己研發嘅，同埋一個飛控平台，我哋叫佢中意係靈魂平台，一間亦都去做一個 demo 嘅。咁呢個平台咧係解決咗我哋而家現時 5G 即係話現時嘅無人機嘅呢個我哋嘅痛點啦。第一，佢哋嘅頻率係唔安全啦，亦都好容易受到干擾。5G 就唔係啦。咁另外咧，佢嘅傳統嘅一個無人機咧，佢嘅距離比較上係短嘅。咁所以咧，但呢個咧，總之有 5G 覆蓋嘅地方咧，就能夠去操縱㗎啦。咁喺呢個 5G 無人機應用方面咧，其實可以有講應急救援啦、森林防火啦、災禍評估啦、交通治理啦、工程監察方面啦，同埋醫療救援同埋多個嘅領域嘅。咁我最近咧亦都好多唔同嘅合作伙伴啦，或者對於我哋呢個 5G 無人機咧係好感興趣嘅。尤其是一啲係地產商啦，佢做一啲係需要一個遠程，之後做一啲係譬如好似係填海嘅工程咧，佢需要呢啲無人機係幫佢做一啲建模嘅工作，而佢成本上咧係慳咗好多嘅。另外咧，我亦都好中意行山。你知道我哋中國移動咧有我哋行山節啦。咁其實嚟講咧，我哋有時都聽到咧，好似有啲行山人士咧，可能係行山時候咧唔小心係失蹤咗，或者係失足受傷。咁好多時咧，我哋需要揾呢啲失蹤人士咧，就可能需要好多人係可能白天先可以進行到。但係我哋配合咗我哋嘅 5G 無人機咧，如果配合埋我嘅紅外線咧，就可能係夜晚亦都可以，即係一啲人行唔到嘅地方都可以盡快做一個搜索，而令到可以更加快去揾到啲失蹤人士，或者係幫助一啲係受傷嘅人士，可能從而就可能救到一條人命。咁另外第二個想講嘅我哋嘅應用咧，可能同你哋有關嘅，就係我哋推出，亦都首先推出咗 5G 串流直播嘅呢個方案咧，我哋叫直播嘅背包啦。咁咧呢個背包咧，如果配合咗一個 5G 我哋嘅 SA 嘅網絡切片技術咧，係可以確保喺任何環境之下咧，都能夠係保持一個好有質量嘅即時直播嘅。咁可能啲突發事件真係其實好細間，佢都可以提。咁可能好細嗰個背包嘅啫，咁可能你就可以啲記者啊，或者係做一啲係直播嘅朋友啊，咁啊，可能呢個係對佢好有大幫助，而係從來係唔會受到一啲環境嘅干擾嘅。第三個我哋sorry，咁講完咗啲應用之後咧，我亦都想講下咧，其實喺技術基建方面咧，我哋係舊年係6月份咧，亦都係奪得咗香港國際機場嘅企業5G 個基礎架構工程嘅招標項目嘅。咁呢個亦都係全港第一個，亦都最大規模嘅 B2B 嘅5G 基建項目啦。而第一期亦都係我哋完成，而 而家係進行第2期嘅建設嘅工程。另外咧，除咗係咁大嘅機場嘅項目之外咧，亦都我哋全港已打造咗全港首個非住宅 5G 嘅智能大廈啦。咁係喺偉業街嘅46號啦。咁佢係我哋用咗 5G 嘅技術，係覆蓋成座嘅大廈，亦都全方位咧智能室內嘅設計，即係做一個室內嘅智能設計嘅。咁其實佢做咩咧？就利用咗呢個 app 啦，可以提供到佢哋嘅入邊嘅住客咧嘅工作室嘅服務啦，一啲係安全嘅服務啦，同埋一啲係我哋叫做貼心嘅管家服務啊等等嘅。咁另外咧，除咗呢啲項目之外咧，我哋都同我哋嘅合作伙伴咧係做到一啲係展示啦，或者一啲應用嘅。譬如我哋喺舊年咧都攜手我哋公銀亞洲咧開拓咗一個智慧金融。如果大家有空咧，可以去到公銀亞洲中環嘅旗艦店咧睇睇，我哋喺嗰度引入咗 5G 嘅網絡技術啦，同埋綜合咗嘅金融科技啦，做咗展示嘅。同埋客戶可以透過呢個半自動嘅形式咧，快速咁完成咗整個開戶嘅手續啦，亦都節省咗好多排隊嘅時間，亦都帶來呢個佢哋嘅客戶咧係個嶄新嘅銀行體驗。而另外咧喺我哋除咗喺啲應用方面咧，亦都我哋係大力推廣呢個 5G 嘅應用嘅。咁所以我哋喺舊年亦都舉辦咗第1屆咧大灣區 5G 應用嘅創新大賽。我哋希望鼓勵啲學生啦，同埋初創嘅公司咧，就住係教育啦、娛樂啦、金融啦、業務啦、業務管理啦、物流保健啦，同埋工業咧7個類別咧進行咗嘅應用比賽嘅。我哋希望藉住嘅機會咧，係培養啲人才啦，同埋推動 5G 研發同埋應用。咁其實呢個其中嘅得獎隊伍之一咧，再生資源科技有限公司咧，亦都因為呢個項目咧，亦都成功咗申請 OFCA 咧政府推出嘅鼓勵及早使用 5G 技術嘅資助計劃，亦都喺香港多區咧係設置咗對 5G 回收機。其實如果大家去睇睇嗰邊咧，其實就 5G 回收機亦都係一個咁可能開始喺唔同嘅地方咧，可能都會見到㗎啦。係利用 5G 嘅技術計劃去5G 嘅技術去做一個智慧呢個回收嘅。講到最後咧，要講到係技術方面啦。其實咧全港我哋亦都係舊年咧，亦都推出咗全港首個流動網睇過 5G 嘅獨立組網嘅。咁咧獨立組網咧係要推出呢一個係叫 EMBB 啦，即係增強型嘅移動寬頻啦業務，同埋係 network slicing 即係網絡切片。可以做咩？就提供一個可以按住你嘅需要定製啦。譬如好似話我需要定製啦，係端對端啦，同埋一個獨立隔離嘅3大特點嘅私人 5G 嘅網絡嘅服務。咁咩定製咧？譬如好似話舉個例子，我可以按住客人嘅需要，我要喺某個時間、某個區域訂製一個私人嘅網絡，佢嘅速度可能係我需要100 Mbps 嘅，時延係要幾多嘅，咁係可以確保呢個網絡嘅安全嘅。呢個亦都係全港第一個。講完我哋過去1年咧所發生嘅嘅發展咧，我都希望藉住機會咧同大家係展望下我哋未來嘅業務嘅發展嘅。第一，我哋而家仍然係咧希望咧，除咗我哋個人用戶之外咧，亦都係發展我哋家庭用戶啦，同埋商業用戶。喺個人市場方面咧，我哋今日亦都係我哋希望推動全民咧 5G 走進呢個智慧生活嘅新一頁啦。所以我哋今日應該係推出咗個新嘅服務計劃。頭先講我哋嗰時最低係198蚊啦，咁而家今日亦都係會更加低168蚊。10 G， 再強調一次。價錢低唔等於質量低，質量低唔等於係價錢高。咁所以希望頭先阿 Joyce 話，如果你仲未轉用呢個 5G 計劃咧，咁希望都考慮下我哋中國移動嘅計劃。
一定會。
咁另外咧，亦都係我哋推動咧，希望更多人用 5G 嘅手機啦。咁我哋亦都推出一個相機大台，即係免費相機連埋上台連機咧，只係需要每個月咧251蚊嘅。詳情可以去到我哋嘅網站去。更加多嘅資料，咁計起上嚟咧，可能只係每個月都大概100零蚊嘅，即係重複嚟講。而喺家庭市場方面咧，我哋希望咧我哋推出個新品牌咧，叫 CMHK Home 啊，咁睇見到我哋嘅 logo 啦。咁咧 CMHK Home 咧，其實主要係除咗我哋提供咗一個家庭寬帶或者係 5G 嘅家庭節目之外咧，其實我哋係推出咗一系列嘅智能家居嘅產品叫 One Home 啦。咁亦都係大於 UTV Box 一個電子盒啦，依家都會 show 俾大家睇嘅，同埋 U 經一個雲遊戲嘅。咁我喺 喺 One Home 方面咧，其實加寬，即係我希望咧引入咗更加多嘅屋企咧係能夠做到個 Smart Home 啦，引入好多嘅唔同嘅 Smart 嘅 device， 而且價錢方面咧亦都係可以好 affordable 嘅。咁亦都如果有機會可以去到我哋嘅旗艦店啦，即係中環嘅人去睇睇我哋不同嘅產品啊。咁另外咧，亦都喺 UTV 啦，亦都係我哋引入咗好多嘅新嘅內容啦。另外咧，我哋嘅U Game 啦，除咗係一個係嶄新嘅雲遊戲嘅，咁除咗可以喺屋企即係喺手機玩之外咧，其實如果可能好多人咧覺得，喂，我唔習慣喺手機玩喎，咁可以用我哋叫 UTV Box 入邊咧嘅其中一個 Apps 可以玩一個真正嘅雲遊戲，亦都所以體驗唔錯嘅啊。咁喺企業市場方面咧，就係我哋亦都有新我哋嘅標籤咧，叫CMHK Solutions 啦。咁我哋咧主要係未來咧今年咧，亦都係主力去推動香港智慧城市嘅發展。喺幾方面啦，我哋係第一就係合作嘅，同我哋合作夥伴攜手咧，希望推動各行各業咧實現好 5G 嘅應用。主要係智慧大廈啦、智慧建築啦，合作夥伴有以下幾個啦。咁另外咧，亦都係喺智慧醫院啊，或者同埋智慧醫療方面咧，係比較注重。最後亦都係智慧出行嘅。我哋做咁多嘢，我哋都希望一樣嘢，就係我哋中國移動香港成為你數字化生活嘅合作夥伴。多謝。
好多謝晒 Sean， 請 Sean 留步。咁聽完咧你嘅分享啦，都相信咧傳媒朋友咧都會有啲問題想問下 Sean 啦，同埋 Speedtest for Ookla 嘅代表 Mr. Maselli。咁咧如果仲係 online 嘅傳媒朋友咧，都可以喺直播嘅界面咧繼續咧俾啲問題我哋喺個 chat box 度。你要講聲你個傳媒機構啦，同埋個問題咧，我哋同事就會再作安排噶啦。咁依家咧第一個問題咧就係俾 Sean 嘅。
好。
咁 5G 嘅賣點啦係高速度啦、低時延、多連結。你認為咧邊一個特點係最重要咧？
頭先都講啦 5G speed 啦，對於大眾客戶嚟講，速度係應該最容易感受嘅。咁所以雖然其他都好重要，但係對於我哋大眾嘅市場嚟講咧，係速度係第一嘅。咁所以頭先你見到咧係Speedtest 嘅報告方面咧，我哋喺各方面做咗好大嘅投資同埋好大努力，所以我哋嘅速度點解係成個香港市場係高過其他好多啊？所以我哋覺得速度係最重要嘅。
速度最重要啊！咁第二個問題咧都係俾 Sean 嘅，就係中國移動香港咧之後咧都會陸續咧有積極咧同咧各界嘅唔同咧合作嘅。咁目前咧有啲咩計劃咧？
目前嘅計劃咧就有幾樣嘢。咁第一就頭先所講啦，我哋同好多唔同嘅地產商咧合作，做緊呢啲係智慧大廈啦、智慧建築啦。咁頭先亦都咁智慧醫療咧，我哋係去嘗試做緊嘅。咁智慧遠行咧，其實我哋都同國內一啲公司咧係希望引入呢啲係無人駕駛嘅技術嚟香港嘅啊。咁當然啦，頭先要講幾個 application 啦，無人機啊，即係 5G 無人機啊等等咧，其實咧亦都同好多一啲建築公司咧已經基本上咧已經簽約㗎啦。咁佢希望運用啲技術咧，可以做到即係減省佢哋嘅一啲人工啦、人力啦，同埋提高佢哋嘅效益嘅。
好，唔該晒。咁下一條問題啦，The next question is for Andrew. Hi Andrew.
Hi.
Okay, we see that CMHK performed the fastest in both iPhone and Samsung devices. May I know how many tests that Ookla recorded and back end to see these results?
Yes. Well, within that time period that we talked about, remember it's a 3 consecutive months. We saw 45,312 tests for iPhone and 16,977 tests for Samsung. So that reflects that sort of very high iPhone heavy trend that CMHK or that Hong Kong has, I should say, and that's reflected in CMHK as well.
Thank you, Andrew. 咁下一個問題咧就係俾 Sean 嘅。咁見到今日嘅分享啦 ，CMHK 啦喺上下載同視延上咧都拋離遠遠咁拋離對手喎。Sean 點樣睇呢一個成績咧？
我哋繼續努力啦。咁即係頭先我講咧，就係其實喺呢方面咧，其實我哋落咗好大嘅，即係第一個幾樣優勢咧，係其他或者我哋嘅其他嘅營運商都未必到。我哋第一就我哋有個好好嘅5G 嘅頻譜啦啊。第二咧就係我哋喺覆蓋方面咧，亦都係落咗好多嘅投資嘅啊。咁呢方面我哋都會繼續努力咯。唔
該晒 Sean。Next question is for you, Andrew. Hi.
Okay.
Okay, how do you see a fast 5G network be able to help smart city development?
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know. Maybe Sean could answer that one better than I could. But yeah, I mean, 5G, low latency, massive machine type communication is the key, right? LTE doesn't have as many necessarily, the ability to have as many connections as a 5G network. And so when you're dealing with a big IoT network, you need massive communication and you need network slicing to deal with these pieces separately. All the features of a standalone 5G network. Like CMHK has deployed. So all of these low latency, high throughput, when we talk about autonomous cars, these are the things that we need. We need that low latency, and that's why winning the trifecta, having download throughput, upload throughput, but also latency is really important for a smart city deployment. And so it's pretty encouraging to see what CMHK has done here.
Well, thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Sean. 唔該晒 Sean 同 Andrew 啦。請 Sean 先到台下就咗。好，咁今日咧就多謝咁多位傳媒朋友啦。如果你有其他問題咧，都可以同我哋同事講翻啦，我哋之後都可以再回答你嘅。咁咧今日咧中國移動香港5G 商用1週年傳媒發布會就到尾聲啦。我代表中國移動香港再一次感謝各位傳媒朋友今日嘅參與。我哋今日嘅發布會咧將會上載至於 UTV 啦、MyLink 啦、CMHK 嘅網站，所以如果你哋想重溫翻咧都可以嘅。再一次多謝咁多位參加中國移動香港5G 商用1週年傳媒發布會，祝大家有一個美好嘅下午。